Okay, so let's talk about how to get started in remote high ticket sales as a complete beginner. We're going to go step by step. This is going to be a full guide. So there's really 4 things that you're going to want to be able to manage, 4 things that you're going to want to consistently pour into, with 1 being your skill development, 2 being your assets, 3 being your outreach, and 4 being your branding. So starting with skill development. This breaks down into 3 different sections, with the first one being what I'm sure you're assuming is your sales skills. How are you developing your sales ability on a consistent basis? When I say developing your sales ability, I'm not talking about memorizing word tracks. I'm not talking about just having a list of questions that you're taking people through. What I'm talking about is, first thing you're going to need to do as a sales rep is understand the framework of the call, understand what the overarching process is. Yes, that is going to include some questions, that is going to include some things that you're going to want to say, but you don't want to be married to some kind of word for word track, because a lot of the way that you sell is going to be determined by the type of offer you're selling and the type of prospects you're selling to. So what you really want to get good at, what you really want to get comfortable with, is sales psychology, understanding people, understanding how to build trust, understanding how to follow a process while still being genuine and showcasing that you're genuinely there to help the person in front of you. You don't want to just understand, what do I say? What do I say? What do I say? That's what everyone wants to focus on. But you want to learn the why behind everything. That list of questions that person gave you in that sales script, what is the value of each question on that script? Why are you asking it? What are you trying to elicit through that question? What type of information are you trying to gather by asking that question? You need to understand that. Why do you do what you do? You need to develop your own or adopt your sales ideology. You also want to build your communication skills and fluidity. These things are way more important than memorizing word tracks. When you speak, how clear are you? Are you concise? Are you direct? Do you have fluidity in your speech? Do you pause a lot? Your communication skills are going to be massive for how you perform on an offer. How confident are you? Where are you at mentally? What are your reasons for being on that call? Do you understand what you're trying to achieve throughout these sales conversations? Do you understand what your role is fully as a closer or as an appointment setter? If you can develop these things, if you can become an excellent communicator, if you can really understand buyer psychology and understand why people buy, what situation people are in when it comes to where they're at with different stages of the pipeline, whether they've just discovered that they have a problem or they understand they have a problem and are already looking at solutions. Understanding all these things, developing your skill set around these things, are going to allow you to step into any offer and perform well, rather than taking one salesperson, whether it's me or whether it's someone else, some kind of sales trainer, and saying, I want to just be like them. I just want all their word tracks. When the prospect says this, I say that because that's exactly what they would say. That stuff's not going to help you long term. Yes, it can be good for ideas. It can be good for things that you can utilize on sales calls. Once you've got these fundamentals down, once you've got the psychology down, once you've got the communication down, once you've got the fluidity, once you understand how to follow a process and the overarching framework, then you can start to play around with different word tracks. You can start to play around with different key things that are going to be like, hey, this is how I handle this objection in this situation. You need to understand, first of all, when you're in that situation, how to get there, and all of these other overarching things that are behind that. So when it comes to developing your sales skills, focus on the things that I just mentioned. Next thing you want to develop when it comes to skills is interview skills. So many people don't follow this. So many people just miss out on this. They do tons of role plays. Like I said, they memorize the word tracks. They try to get so good at sales, and then they go and they bomb interview after interview after interview after interview, and they never actually land a role. How about you take some of that time you spend doing mock calls and do interview mocks? Get good at interviewing. Most people suck at interviews because they just haven't done many interviews in their life. Just like you need to practice your sales skills, you need to practice your interview skills. And I promise you, the people that have had practice their interview skills, when they meet with recruiters, when they meet business owners, I've gotten the feedback that, wow, these people interview really, really well. What are you doing with them? Well, I'm making them practice, right? So what do you need to learn when it comes to interview skills? Well, first and foremost, are you a confident presenter? Do you understand the sales terminology that is used in everyday conversations with your team? Do you know how to tell concise stories? Can you be direct? Do you ramble a lot when you're in an interview situation? These are the things that are going to help you present well in an interview. If you're concise, if you're a good storyteller, if you are confident in your presentation and in your speech, you're going to show up well in interviews and you're going to get way more offers. Even if you're not as good at sales as the next guy, the guy who's, better than you at sales but sucks in interviews isn't going to get as many offers. And it's just as simple as that. So spend some time practicing and developing your interview skills. And then lastly, networking. You want to know how to connect with people, how to network with people, how to reach out to your peers, to network in terms of doing role plays together, to network in terms of getting referrals to different offers that they're on or they used to be on, or people that they know, getting introductions. That's going to be huge for your long-term career. Some of the best offers out there, those positions get filled very, very quickly because of network. So you want to learn how to connect with other sales managers, other sales reps, other closers, other setters. You want to learn how to connect with people. So those are the sales skills. Those are the skills you need to be developing before you land your first role or during that kind of, process of landing your first role. All of these things that I'm talking about, how you go about it in terms of timeline or how much of what you do, a lot of these things you're doing simultaneously. And depending on what you need is how heavily you're going to spend on each thing. And that's where having a coach, having a mentor, having a consultant that you work with does come in handy, because they can kind of help you guide, like, hey, I think you need to lean in more on the interview practice. Hey, I think you need to lean in more on the sales practice. Hey, I think you need to lean in more on developing your assets or your outreach or your branding. They can kind of help guide you. You don't need it if you understand what to do. It's just making sure these things are optimized so that you save a ton of time in producing results and bearing fruit with these things. That's where a coach comes in handy. But again, you don't need one, but this is something that definitely cuts down the learning curve and saves you a ton of time. So maybe you want to consider looking at different options and getting some support. That being said, we have a community where we do free calls every single Monday. If you want kind of specific feedback on where you're at in the process and getting help, we do a free call every single Monday at this point of recording this video. I don't know when you're watching this, but link in the description to join our school community where we have those free support calls. You can jump on, ask questions, and get support. That being said, the second part, assets. These are, think of the things that you need to have in order to submit applications, to be considered for interviews, to land roles. This is like if you were a graphic designer and you wanted to get a job as a graphic designer, you need a portfolio of work to showcase the designs that you have made. And if you were a graphic designer trying to get into graphic design for the first time, you haven't actually worked for anyone, you don't have any designs, well, you would just make some random ones on your own accord, and then you would put them in your portfolio to then showcase so you can land that first role. Similar to your assets as a remote high ticket sales rep, you would also have one, an intro video, two call snippets, call recordings, those kind of things to showcase that you can sell. Now, when you've landed your first role, you're going to have even more assets, which I'll get into in a second. But your first two strongest indicators or strongest assets are going to be that intro video and those call recordings, with the intro video being by far the most, and I want you to listen to this, the most important asset you can possibly have if you want to land interviews as a remote sales rep. And the reason why I say it's the most important asset ever is because they're looking for someone that's confident, that is a good communicator, that can pitch, can sell. And the intro video is the one asset that shows all of that. It shows how you sell yourself, how you communicate. It shows your environment and your setup to make sure that you have, kind of the look to actually be a rep, especially as a closer. If you're getting on calls with business owners, you want to be in like an office type setting, decent camera quality, decent audio quality, all of that stuff. The intro video is your resume in this industry, and it's better than a resume. It's stronger than a resume. It will make or break the process for you landing a ton of interviews or 0 interviews. So having a good introduction video is imperative. I have videos on how to make a good intro video. That's partly why we spend a lot of time in our community reviewing intro videos on that Monday free support call. So bring your intro videos. We can review them. Even if you just post them in the community, we can review them. But just short and sweet, your intro video needs to showcase your communication skills. It needs to showcase your confidence, and it needs to showcase, like I said, that you're in an environment that's suitable for taking calls. If you're getting on calls with business owners, or you're selling to high net worth individuals, because high ticket sales, you usually are selling to people that have the money to afford these types of services, you need to show up and look professional. No blurry camera, no weird destroyed background, no chippy audio, no in and out internet connection. All of that needs to be squared away. Clean, crisp camera. Doesn't need to be the most expensive thing in the world, but clean 1080p. Don't need a big expensive mic, but clean, crisp audio. Again, I have tons of videos on what to say, how to go about the intro video. That can be a whole nother thing in itself. So in order to not take up too much time, check those out. But you do need to have a great intro video. As for call snippets, as for the portfolio piece, if you don't have a track record, especially, you need to showcase how you sell and that you can sell. So as you're, building your sales skills and doing role plays with people, practicing with people, make sure that you're taking out some of your best moments, a couple full call examples, a couple snippets. If you're an appointment setter, you can just do a bunch of full calls because the calls are really short. But especially as a closer, you want to have snippets of, hey, this is how I pitch XYZ service. This is how I handled this objection. This is how I did a deep discovery with this one. This is how I challenged this. This is how I kicked off the call with a difficult prospect. You want to have different examples of how you sell, not just you saying it, but you in a role play scenario where someone's responding and you've got clips showcasing how you handle various situations, because that's going to help businesses and recruiters when they click on those examples, listen to what they want to hear and say, okay, this person sells the way our team sells. This person sells the way I would want us to sell. So let's give them an interview. If you do have experience, obviously you've got tracking sheets and past history of closes, real call recordings, with obviously redacted information, private information that you can showcase in that portfolio that also lays credence to your sales skills. But again, for those of you that are beginners, you can create that portfolio through role plays. Just make sure your role play partner gives you different looks. Make sure your role play partner isn't a lay down. Make sure they give you some pushback on those calls. Make sure they're more difficult, and make sure that you practice in a niche that you're most likely to sell in. I see a lot of people doing role plays. Usually they get into like a coaching program of some sort. The coaching program tells them to do role plays. They do role plays selling the same sales service that they bought. So they're in a high ticket sales coaching program, role playing with someone selling high ticket coaching program. Most of the time, that's not what they're actually going to be selling. So the role plays are good for getting feedback and for being reviewed by the coach, but they don't help as much when it comes to what am I utilizing for my portfolio. So what you want to do is pick a few niches that you're more likely to actually sell in and practice those. So if you want to sell in fitness, if you want to sell marketing service, if you want to sell whatever it is you want to sell, role play that niche get your feed, get your role, get your call reviews and all that stuff, and use that to make your snippets, use that to build your portfolio. Because if you apply with a portfolio of, fitness pitching examples, fitness objection handling examples, fitness discovery call examples, and then you go apply to a fitness offer, the odds that they find tons of relevance and they say, hey, this person knows how to sell fitness and hires you, go way, way, way up than if you apply for a fitness role and all of your role play examples are you selling sales coaching. They'll still see, okay, you've got some sales skills, but again, you're not going to differentiate yourself as much, and you're not going to stand out as much, and you're not going to, they're not going to be able to find as much relevance as they would if it was more niche specific. So that's why you want to do that. Those are your assets. So you've got your skills, you're developing your skills now, you've got your assets, you're ready to now, you've got your interview skills, you know how to show up to interviews, you know how to sell. And now you've got your assets, so you can actually start applying to roles now. Now you're confident, you can start applying to roles. And this is where your outreach is the third thing that you want to get good at, is how do you outreach to these business owners, to these sales managers to actually land interviews. Now, there's lots of options. There's just general job boards, LinkedIn, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, those kinds of things. You've got niche networks like RepSelect, where the roles are specifically for remote high ticket sales, vetted, verified. Those roles are, specifically for that. So you don't have to spend as much time sifting through to find only a handful of jobs, spending hours on Indeed and those kinds of things. Then you've got recruiters who will place you in interviews directly if you impress them and showcase that you're a good fit for the specific roles that they have. In all of these cases, in order to skip the line, right? If you're applying to jobs on Indeed and stuff like that, you're getting put into an application pool, right? If you're applying to jobs on like niche networks, again, you're getting put into an application pool, smaller pool, not as much spam, but again, you're still getting put on a list of other people. If you're applying, same thing with recruiters, you're getting put in a list with other people, and those recruiters are only looking for the best of the best to possibly put in with their business owners. So you want to make sure that you have a solid outreach strategy, not to just message people willy-nilly, but how are you going to communicate with recruiters and communicate with the jobs that you do find on these platforms so that you can actually get responses and get interviews from these people. So you want to make sure that when you reach out, this is the kind of the framework. When you reach out, let them know why you're a good fit. Some people miss this part. So many people shoot me a message, shoot other recruiters a message, shoot other business owners a message, and they say, hey, I'm looking for a job. Or they say, hey, I saw you're hiring, hire me, I'm a closer, I'm a setter. But what they're missing is come with the assets and come with reasons why you're a good fit. Sell that person on why they should hire you. You have to understand that in this role, you're essentially self-employed. You're essentially a business owner who's trying to sell their sales service, one-man sales agency, to a business that's going to hire you to perform your sales service in their company. So you have to do sales. Your first task is to sell yourself. And part of selling yourself is saying, just like on a sales call, why your solution is a perfect match for what they're looking for, right? You would never get on a sales call and just say, hey, we've got a coaching program, and leave it at that and hope they buy. You know what I mean? If you were a DM setter, you would never try to set an appointment by shooting someone a DM and being like, hey, saw you're looking for, even if they engage, hey, saw you're looking for help with fitness. We've got a fitness program. You want to buy it, right? That's not how you would sell it, right? So what you want to do is when you take a look at their job post, when you take a look at their company, when you take a look at the clients they serve, how they serve them, everything, give them a few reasons when you reach out to them why you're a good fit. And the reason why you don't just want to submit an application and wait there is because you can skip the line by shooting them a DM, by messaging them directly, by shooting them an email, because not many people are willing to do that. Again, if you watch any of my content, you've heard me say this a million times. You will get way more interviews. You will skip the line if you do direct outreach. This is not volume outreach. This is not send 100 messages a day. This is send messages to the key businesses you really want to work with that you find on these platforms. And that's why platforms like RepSelect save you a ton of time, because we vet the offers so that we only have remote high ticket sales roles in one place. So every job post is exactly the type of role you're looking for. Then you can just do your filtering from there. And then you can say, okay, these are the high ticket sales roles I want. Let me submit my application and let me reach out directly and let them know, hey, these are the few reasons why I believe I'm a good fit and I'd crush it at your company. Let's have a chat, right? Versus, maybe job boards where you've got to now scroll through all the other marketing and, SaaS and all these other irrelevant roles, find the handful of roles that are relevant. Then on top of that, you got to be like, okay, now out of these roles that are relevant, which ones do I actually want to work with? Now you're filtering down again, and you might find out of the 5 or 10 that were relevant, 2 or 3 that you actually want to apply to. Then you got to now submit your application and do the extra research to reach out directly. Just cut all of that time down. And use a niche network like RepSelect. But regardless, you want to make sure that you're reaching out directly outside of it, because you will skip the line. How often are these recruiters, how often are these sales managers checking their Google Sheets of all the applications that come in? Not as often as they're checking their DMs. So I'll leave it from there. I have other videos on this topic as well. And lastly is branding. This is what makes the outreach work. I've talked to so many business owners, and they tell me over and over again that if your socials don't look good, just based off that alone, regardless of your message, they just won't respond. A lot of them, what they'll do is they'll open your socials to see if they should respond to your DM. So you can have great socials and a bad message and still get responses and get interviews and get offers, right? So these things go hand in hand. Imagine if you have a great message and great branding. If you see yourself, like I said, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner who's selling their sales service, imagine if you had a company that shot you a cold DM to sell you something, or shot you a cold email, or they had ads and their ads were great, or their message was great. And then you clicked on their social profile and they had like no profile image. Everything that they posted wasn't even relevant to what they were trying to sell. And it just didn't align in any way. Would you trust that company? Would you trust that offer, that service? Would you be confident in hiring or buying from that company? No. So it's the same thing with you as a sales rep trying to sell your sales services now, stepping into this entrepreneur type role where you've got to have some type of branding in terms of a clean, proper profile image. Your bio, your whatever platform you're on is filled out fully and branded and showcasing that you are a sales rep and you are just a real human being. A lot of people, they've got a lot of irrelevant stuff or just nothing. It's better to have irrelevant stuff on your socials than just nothing at all, right? So your socials need to be clean, good headshot, photo, filled out fields, especially on LinkedIn. LinkedIn and Facebook are going to be your bread and butter for this industry, but you need to have it filled out. Have some engagement, show that you've networked with people in their industry, with their peers. There's no easier way to get on like the friends list of a CEO or a sales manager that you want to, connect with. And there's no better way to get a response from them if they see that you're connected with their peers or other people that they're connected with. So you can go to their friends list and add friends that they have, add reps that they have, other business owners they have, recruiters that they have, comment on their content, build your engagement with them. Again, this is another thing that I'm going to make a separate video on because it can be its own thing, but make sure that you're connecting with and, engaging with these people on some kind of consistent cadence, whether it's weekly, whether it's, twice a week, whatever it is, leaning meaningful, engaging comments on their posts, showcasing that you understand their industry, understand their niche, and expanding upon their posts that showcase, hey, this is something that I'm also an expert in, or I have knowledge on. Therefore, when you reach out to them to be on their sales team, they say, hey, this person knows sales and they understand my industry. Let's give them an interview. All of these things put together will help you transition smoothly into this industry, will help you land a great offer, and will help you get started cleanly in remote high ticket sales. Develop your sales skills, develop your assets so you can start applying. Make sure that you understand how to do really good outreach and have the branding behind it that makes your outreach effective, makes people actually want to respond. Hopefully that helps. I'll see you in the next video.